So I was 8 years old when my mum was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I think to begin with, as an 8-year-old, you don't really think about what cancer is, what it means. And I said to Dad, I was like, oh, Mum's going to be fine, no way, like she's going to live. And it was the first time my dad kind of was like, she's actually not going to. It was 2 weeks later, and it was about 6 in the morning when my dad woke me and my sister up to say that Mum was probably had an hour, if that, left. So we went into my parents' bedroom, climbed into bed with Mum and just laid with her as she took her last breath. And I was about 12 years old at the time. I guess my dad's coping mechanism was to work. So he was working long hours. So that next year, we pretty much got a nanny straight away, and he just went straight back to work. So then a year later, I was at a friend's house when we got a phone call from the hospital saying that my dad had had a stroke and he was going to be in hospital basically for the next 2 weeks. After my dad had the stroke, he actually wasn't allowed to work anymore. And obviously, like most stroke victims, he lost sensation down his left side of his body. Dad's gambling was definitely a very prominent part of our teenage years. He was probably out, if not every night, 5 to 6 nights a week. And he'd go out every single night. And then sleep all day, and I always felt like I was walking on eggshells. I guess that brings quite a lonely childhood when he naturally pushed all our friends away, all of our family away, so there were literally just the 3 of us once my mum passed away. I'd often make my dad a cup of tea, and if it wasn't the right shade, he wouldn't have any words, he would just be straight away like, okay, I'm not talking to you for a few days. My dad was a massive fan of the silent treatment, of ignoring, and he'd share of stories where he did it growing up or even as an adult and how it's the way to get what you want in life. My sister started going along to a youth group, and she suddenly overnight just had so much joy, and I just noticed she had something that I wanted, and I just wanted to see what it was all about, so I started going along. I had major doubts. I went along to a life group for a year and asked every question under the sun, to the point I moved out of home and moved into a flat of Christian girls, which I think was a very significant move and moment for me to changing my life and who I was and who I wanted to become. So I'd been at church for a while at this stage, and then I met Matt, my husband. We got married at 21. He taught me how to forgive and how to forget and how to move on from situations. He taught me how to smile more and to let people into my life. So after my second child, I was waking up every 45 minutes, day and night with him. And I ended up getting postpartum anxiety, which was actually a massive blessing because my midwife and doctor put me on to some counselling, and the counsellor said to me, do you realise that this is not your fault? It was like the words I've been waiting to hear my whole life, and they just came with such freedom. There's constant daily reminders of things that I'm grateful for that remind me that he's a good God and that he wants the best for me, and that I can change in my situation or change my mindsets to be more like his, and with that comes so much more freedom and joy and love and what he wants for me and for my life.